So, just rolled into Tacoma. Good 50 minutes or so into the trip, southbound from Seattle. I have regained one normalcy of pre-pandemic times, which is train ride. I like Tacoma. It has its rough edges, and sometimes, I don't know if anymore, but sometimes it used to smell like a paper mill, which is where the famous Tacoma aroma comes from. But they got this cool brand new bridge, this nice waterfront and everything. The downtown's pretty nice too, sort of. And back up on the main streets there, into town, up the hill, there's some pretty cool places, pretty awesome food places. But also there's one of the best history museums in the country, my not humble opinion. And then there's the Chihuly Museum right here that we're rolling up on with this cool cone-shaped thing. And then the pedestrian bridge that goes back over to the History Museum. So 2 museums right in the same spot here. So being a history nerd, in addition to, a computer programming nerd and a guitar nerd and all that stuff, I can come here and nerd out on history. Matter of fact, it's where I learned about, well, to put it bluntly, Seattle being a super racist place. And the Irish-Asian war that broke out in the streets for a while.
Conductors passing through the train at this time to collect or scan tickets.
Ooh, ticket collection. That's what an experience.
Facial coverings required on the train at all times to cover your nose and your mouth. The only exception to the
unless you're in the sleeper, and I'm in a sleeper.
Consuming a beverage needs to be worn properly over your nose and your mouth.
In case you're curious.
Policy, it's also now federally mandated that travelers in the United States will wear facial covering.
Curious about what a roomette looks like. That's what I got right now. There's also a bedroom, some other stuff, but we can talk trains a little later. Because after all, I was busy rambling about Tacoma, so let's talk about Tacoma a little bit more. There's part of the shipping traffic jam in the port here in Tacoma. That's something that routinely happens in Seattle and Tacoma, even though both ports are pretty gigantic and both kind of equitably large. But you see this a lot. One of the things that I love about Tacoma is this part, which is called Old Town Tacoma. There's a few little things, like a little fishery here, but also this cool hotel that sits out on the dock, okay? They got nice hot tubs and all sorts of sweet stuff. It's just a silver cloud, but it's a pretty nice one. Highly recommend staying here if you're trying to do a staycation and get out of town and everything. Right across the way, which is behind this video, because I'm shooting toward the water, but behind it is a small little Old Town Tacoma. And as you can see, they're building some new stuff here. And this waterfront path, which goes all the way to downtown pretty much, comes around here, and just a little ways from the hotel are these establishments, Harbor Lights, Ram Brewing, and Shenanigans, I think, CI Shenanigans, that's it. So each of those places has really good food, drinks, all that kind of jazz. So it's great to come out here to those establishments, to Duke's right there and other places, just hang out on the waterfront, staycation mode, or if you live close, just come out and enjoy the waterfront and the good food, good drinks, and all that jazz. Just chill. It's a great area. There's some of that traffic jam. Another ship. You might notice. There it is. Sitting out there. So yeah, it's routine for Seattle and Tacoma to get these traffic jams, which if you're a shipping nerd, you probably know all about. But basically these container ships get queued up, and between the things that have been going on, the pandemic and all that, and then the traffic jam in the Suez Canal, it's kind of screwed up all the shipping all over the world. Things are delayed. Things that are on time are getting out of queue. So everything that was planned for the weeks, as they do, because it takes weeks to get around these different places when you got shipping. it's caused a lot of backup and things being out of queue of what the plan was for them to arrive in. So here we are in Seattle and Tacoma, and we got this like crazy queue of ships. And even down to Portland, there's a queue. You can see them often in the Columbia River, all the way out to the mouth of the Columbia, out into the Pacific, out in Astoria, which is kind of neat. So if you're a shipping nerd, it's kind of fun to come to Seattle or Tacoma and just check out, you know, what's going on. Sometimes it's kind of fascinating, especially with the way the Puget Sound works and the way the Columbia River works. Between the mouths of these two places, it makes for some interesting sightseeing. Again, probably more specifically if you're a shipping nerd, which, since I'm a freight shipping in general nerd, you know, along with all those other things I'm a nerd about, it's quite fascinating. And as often mentioned and discussed, here are the Tacoma Narrows bridges, one built many years ago and one built just a few years ago. You can kind of see it through the tree line, and as we get closer I'll take some other shots just so you can check it out. These are two massive bridges, one actually built with the context of being able to put something like light rail across it even, you know, or something of heavier transport capability. And that goes over to what is effectively, I think, an island. I keep forgetting if it is. It's connected by bridges and such, and this is the only nearby connection, a good solid hour south of Seattle, to get over to those areas is via these bridges. But they're pretty beautiful bridges, especially if you're into suspension bridges. Look, another nerd topic. I guess there's just plenty of those, a plethora of nerd topics. The other thing about this, though, if you really want to have some interesting historical context for these two bridges, originally there was a bridge built here years and years ago, and it's referred to as Galloping Gertie, because what happened is, back in the day, structural engineers that built bridges didn't really think aerodynamics were all that important to bridges, which we've come to find out now in this day and age, they were very wrong. So what happened is they built this bridge, this little 2-lane bridge across here, and the wind whipping across the sound here started to make it whip back and forth, and whip until it broke and fell into that water down there, right? So if you go to YouTube and you type in Galloping Gertie, you can check that video out, because yes, it was in the era of video, and talk about a viral video. That was one for the time. And there was even a car that got stuck on it, and I hear that the dog died, which sucks, but somebody got their car stuck on the bridge and it fell in too. So there's like an old 1910 car or something like that that's stuck down there in the water, in the sound, with Galloping Gertie. However, fortunately for us in this day and era, these bridges have been built with aerodynamicness in mind, and we know that the wind whipping won't knock these suckers down. They are quite substantially larger than old Galloping Gertie was. So anyway, that's enough of me rambling about Tacoma and the Tacoma Narrows and the Tacoma Narrows bridges. It's a cool area. Highly recommend checking it out if you're ever in the area. And with that, I'm going to skip on toward the end of this trip, and I'll catch you in the next episode of my vlogs. Keep thrashing, y'all.